Founded in 2006, Combatants for Peace brings former members of the Israeli Defense Forces and fighters from the Palestinian resistance together to share their experiences, their grief, and their determination to build a culture of peace amid the ongoing war that has racked their peoples for 75 years. It is the only peace group in the world that was founded and is run by ex-combatants on both sides of an active conflict. Breaking the cycle of violence will focus on the performance work of Combatants for Peace, how they use theater as a tool for dialogue, conflict transformation, nonviolent resistance to the occupation, and the ongoing mass killing in Gaza, how they are nurturing collective imagination in the context of the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian reality. They will share experiences from performances, workshops, and community interventions, highlighting both the artistic and activist dimensions of their work. The session will be led by Combatants for Peace co-founders Chen Alon, head of the Community Theater Camp, Artivism program at Tel Aviv University, and Sulaiman Khatib, who, arrested at the age of 14, spent 10 years in Israeli prisons. In 2017, Alon and Khatib were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're very happy to be here with you. It's an amazing opportunity for us to implement our main role in activism and theater, and this is to break the fourth wall and to make you all, or to transform you all from spectators to spectators. My name is Chen. I'm from Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm a co-founder of Combatants for Peace. And with me, my brother, my comrade, my colleague, my partner, my co-founder of Combatants for Peace, Sulaiman Khatib, who's in Palestine. And literally 20-something more years ago, we were shooting at each other or willing to kill each other. And today we are here with you to present our journey of, in the past 20 years, how we've became Combatants for Peace. Suli.
Wow, thank you, and thanks, brother, and thank you everyone for attending and for hosting us also. As Chen said, I'm speaking to you from Palestine. I'm literally in Beit Jala, which is a town next to Bethlehem. Supposedly the city of peace and Jesus and love. And really, I'm also excited really to share our journey, Chen and myself and other people in our nonviolent movement that choose life and choose humanity over dehumanization, over war, and over zero-sum game. We're happy to share our journey with you. Hopefully, this can really enrich, maybe we'll leave you with some questions as well, some answers of what's happening here on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Suli. So just want to open by saying what we're going to do today with you. We are going to do what we did 20 years ago, the way we founded the movement, which is, and here I'm quoting Alistair Little, a UVF ex-prisoner in North Ireland, our friend, our brother, who was 10 years in jail for killing an IRA fighter. He said to us, in order to know who I am, you have to know who I was. And this is how we founded the movement, on our personal stories. We gathered secretly. We will tell you more later about it, how we did it. But we did it, and our intuition was like in Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, to tell our truth in the path of violence, to share our violent stories, not in order to ask for forgiveness or to get rid of guilt feelings, but in order to take responsibility to transform our past violent past to a non-violent future and a non-violent present. So what we're going to do now is that Suli will share with you his personal story, his personal journey, including the chapter of the violence. I'm going to do the same. And then we will analyze with you our personal stories through the theatrical journey that we have done since then. So we will start with 2 personal stories, and then we will elaborate more on how theater was a medium that serves us on one hand for truth, reconciliation, dialogue, rehumanization, on the other hand, resisting or co-resisting the occupation, and fighting and confronting the brutal system of the occupation and the apartheid and the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of the past 2 years. So, Suli, the floor is
Activism
yours.
started really early, like from my childhood almost. When I was 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, I joined the Palestinian resistance. And, at that time, like Chen mentioned, we will share with you that chapter as well. That time, like my um, role model will be, Che Guevara and Arafat and fighting and arms struggle, honesty. So I did everything I could at that time for the freedom and the liberation of Palestine. And that means I did, raising Palestinian flags on the walls, writing like slogans of Free Palestine, which was all of this is like legal, obviously, living and being under the military Israeli occupation. Um, and then, started throwing stones and Molotov cocktail. And then um, my friend that his family house was demolished by the Israeli army. He was almost like 17 and a half. I was 14 and a half at this point. Stabbed 2 Israelis. 2 Israeli soldiers, they were in vocation actually. That's what we learned later. The 2 Israelis were wounded. And then a few days later, we were taken to Israeli jail. Yeah, at this point, as I said, I was 14 and 5 months, and I was sent to a military jail. As we live within the military system, um, so the rules of the law is different here than within Israel proper, to say. So people understand what we're talking about. Of course, I went through a lot of psychological and physical torture. I played my role as a good Palestinian guy that feel like really grounded and belonging and in the right side of history and so on. Um, and then back and forth, I was sent to the court, the military court, and I was sentenced to, I became 15 and I was sentenced to 15 years in jail.
And my story begins with my grandparents. My grandmother and my grandfather, they left Europe a minute before the Holocaust because they were the only Zionist of their family. And this reason saved our family. I mean, we will talk later, maybe. We will mention Zionism, anti Zionism, non Zionism, post Zionism. But the fact that my grandfather was the crazy Zionist of the family, went to Zion and built a home here, and then went back to Europe, took my grandmother and their daughter, my aunt, and came to Palestine. And then my father was born here, not in Europe. That's what saved our family. And nobody told me that. Nobody explains in Israel that Zionism, that the people in Europe who were Zionist actually were saved. Because my father grew up with no uncles, no aunts, no grandparents, no cousins. My grandmother and my grandfather lost all their siblings, all their family members in in um, in death camps. So the message to my father, who was born in Israel, was that Zionism saved our family, and and the only implication for that in Israel is the army, the Israeli army, that we never were safe anywhere in the world, and this is the shelter for the Jews. We should join the army, serve in the army. The army is almost saint in Israel. There's a mandatory service for 3 years for men and 2 years for women. My father fought in 67 and 73. And I actually had a dream to follow my father's footsteps and to become a war hero and to serve my time, my shift in the army, to become a combatant soldier. And since I remember myself, I had another dream. I knew that I belonged to theater. Since I remember myself, I knew that I'm an artist. I knew that I will do theater all my life. But in Israel, the first profession that you learn is army, soldier. And any other dreams has to be postponed after you fulfill your duty as a soldier. And I grew up with all the books and the films of war heroes and how the army is the answer to anti-Semitism and to the Holocaust and the never again. And so I was kind of waiting to join the army. I was kind of waiting to fulfill my first role in life. And indeed, I joined the army, but it was the very, very beginning of the first Intifada, 1987, 88, when it just erupted, Palestinian uprising in the West Bank and Gaza. So I found myself invading houses, chasing children, suppressing demonstration, shooting rubber bullets and gas tears, grenades, and yeah, I mean, I had this fantasy of becoming a war hero, and I find myself doing very dirty police work. But the fuel of the never again and the Holocaust and the Jewish shelter and was so strong that the justification was that we're living in a democratic state and we cannot pick up our missions. That's the rule in a democratic state. The army is fulfilling government's mission and so on. So I served everywhere. There's no city, town, village, refugee camp in Palestine, both West Bank and Gaza, that I haven't served in, or it was the very 4 years of the first Intifada. So for me, occupation is not just a theoretical word of a concept. It comprised of hundreds of people that I've arrested, hundreds of nights that I was walking, imposing curfews in refugee camps, arresting people, invading Palestinian family homes. Um, and I once in 1990, I actually kidnapped a 10 years old child from his own bed in Deir el-Balach in the Gaza Strip. And I'm saying kidnap because it was, I got an order to arrest someone who threw cocktail Molotov on our Jeep in Deir el-Balach. And I thought that I'm going to arrest a wanted person. And I realized that when we walked secretly and quietly into the house, invaded it, and the intelligence guy knew exactly where the boy is. And when we took him out of his home, I realized that this is a 10 years old child. So I understand that something is wrong here, but the fuel and the justification and the never again, it is so strong that that I was able to integrate these two characters in me. And then I was released from the army after.
If you enjoyed this excerpt from Performing the World and would like to watch the full session, please visit the Eastside Institute YouTube channel and explore the Performing the World playlist for complete presentations, conversations, and workshops from across the conference. Please also subscribe to our channel to stay connected with future releases, talks, interviews, and community events. To learn more about the work of the Eastside Institute, visit our website, eastsideinstitute.org.